Mike Rogers has built an entire career out of convincing the people of his district that he is the single savior of the Anniston Army Depot, or Depot as it's popularly known. Can you speak to that? Because I've heard you talk about that before, and we know that that is simply not true. But could you address that?
Yeah, okay, so I'm about to nerd out for everybody that's listening. It's going to get detailed and you're probably not going to care, but this is my area of expertise. Okay, so everybody knows about the Anniston Army Depot, right? Fort McClellan used to be the big military employer in this district. Well, actually, Fort Benning still is the big military employer in this district. He never talks about that. More people, and especially when he used to include Russell County, more people worked at Fort Benning than ever worked at the Anniston Army Depot that came to this district. Now with Russell going over to the second district, it's a little bit less. But more people commute from Lee County and from Chambers County to Columbus to work at Fort Benning than work at the Anniston Army Depot. But that's, okay, I just turned it out again. All right, so the Anniston Army, when Fort McClellan closed in 1998, Mike Rogers likes to tell the story that if he wasn't around, the Anniston Army Depot would have closed as well. A couple of facts you need to know. Number one, Mike Rogers wasn't even in Congress for 4 more years. So he couldn't really have had a whole lot of impact. Number two, I went back and looked at every, it's called the BRAC Commission, the Base Realignment and Closing Commission. I went back and looked at every BRAC report that was ever issued, and the Anniston Army Depot never came up once. I then went back and I looked at every newspaper article that mentioned the Anniston Army Depot from the day Fort McClellan closed till last June. Closing the depot was never mentioned once. Let me tell you what they do with the Anniston Army Depot, principally their main mission. They do 2 things. Number one, they service small arms, so when the M4 needs to be fixed after so many, they send them there, they send in 60 machine, saws and a squad of assault weapons. They send those to the depot to be refurbished. That's not their big deal. Their big deal is the M1 Abrams main battle tank is the premier armored force in the world. Our heavy divisions rely on the M1 Abrams main battle tank. Without that main battle tank, we don't have an army. There's one place in the world that services the engines and rebuilds the engines on the M1 Abrams main battle tank. That's the Anniston Army Depot. So if we close that and relocate it, and Mike Rogers likes to say, I think he was going to go to Ohio. If we close that, number one, not only do we have to relocate, pay billions of dollars to relocate all that infrastructure, but we also have to relocate or lose 30 years of technical expertise that's been built up in that workforce. Okay? And that would take 3 years. So basically, the Army would not have a functional tank after about 18 months. So for a year and a half, we would go without tanks in the U.S. Army. That is not possible. Okay? So there is, and that can't be done anywhere else in the world. So the Anniston Army Depot was never going to close because of the mission. Second thing that people need to know about is the Anniston Army Depot was where they disposed of chemical weapons. And the way they disposed of some of the chemical weapons, apparently, is they put them in buckets and poured them out on the ground. Anniston Army Depot is the largest Superfund site left in the United States. And just the first level, what sources I've read has said just the first level where they go out and do the surveying and figure out what it's going to take to decontaminate that when the federal government leaves, that's going to cost $240 million. And that's before they start cleanup. So Anniston Army Depot ain't going anywhere. It never was. And the fact that Mike Rogers uses that as his big banner headline of what he's accomplished says a lot about what Mike Rogers has actually accomplished. So, and I'm sorry if I took it, when you start talking about having, and I will tell you, Route Irish, or as we call it, but as the news in Baghdad, or as the news called it, the highway of death. You drive down that from the airport, and then you would go over a little rise, a little turn, and then sitting there, and that was all, hostile territory. But when you came around a curve and came over this little hill, sitting there in the median was an M1 Abrams main battle tank. So when you start talking about, and then when you see that, you just went, because you could relax for a second. I would never, ever, ever let them do anything that would negatively impacted. So it's economic for this area, but no, for me, more importantly, it's a national security issue. If we let them close the depot, we lose the premier armed force in the world that keeps us free every single day. And if you're worried about Russia moving into Poland, moving into Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia, it's our heavy armor forces that are keeping that from happening. So that's why when people start talking about we don't need to be in NATO anymore, I get really upset, especially having served on a NATO bill twice.